Hunter with a mustache, wearing the exact same clothes that he wears now.
Did you have that mustache when you were 8?
No.
Don't you lie to me, dude, because I can see you look like you're 8 now.
Welcome to the Beacon House Podcast, recorded live in Knoxville, Tennessee.
I don't know if we're going to do another live show because that one sucked. Is that better?
It's pretty good, man. Pretty good. And deadly accurate from what I can tell.
If you don't understand the beginning of that funny beginning, that means you were really stupid and didn't come to the live show.
That happened just a few minutes ago, maybe. Or might even still be going on.
Right, but when they hear this, they can either go, oh yeah, it did, or they can go, I regret not being there.
That's true. Or you could regret being there. Either way.
Guys, welcome to another episode of the Beacon House Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Casey.
Hey, I'm Spence.
I'm Hunter.
And today,
we have a special co-host today.
Big Al.
Yeah, Big Al that's not so big. Hey. Al, introduce
She has
yourself.
a big heart.
Say hi to our audience, Al.
My name's Alaiah, or Al, like the princess.
I bet half it's Princess Leia.
Princess Al?
It's not
Alaiah, Princess Alaiah.
Oh, I thought you meant Princess Al from Married with Children.
That doesn't make any sense.
One of these days, Alice.
No, you guys, we've been waiting a long time to have Alaiah on the show. Alaiah is absolutely like one of my best friends in the universe. She's my ride or die. She's my coworker, and like she's like the mom to the entire podcast.
She's
she takes
my
care
ride
of
or
us.
die.
She's my ride or die.
I'm just jealous of that stature.
Okay, you can have her for luck. You can have her
me.
for today because you brought me all this meat.
Can I
Casey
have
brought
her? Can I have her every other weekend and on Thursdays?
If you keep bringing me this meat, talk about this meat that I'm eating.
Casey brought Spencer just some saucy cylindrical meat sticks.
He's making Spencer eat his sausage.
He's exaggerating the suction sound only slightly.
So before heading over here today, I took Hunter and we went to my dad's where my dad has his smoker roaring and flaming right now.
Does your dad listen to the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're roaring and flaming.
That was awesome, and thank you for having me. Also, awesome. Your house is fucking gorgeous. God.
And how was the smoker? Did you expect it to be that big? That's the first thing everyone says when they see it because it's on a trailer and it's massive.
I'm now eating broccoli.
The first thing I said to Casey after I saw the smoker, which is kind of stupid, but I guess speaks to who I am, I was like, I want to build a toy version of that.
That says a lot about you.
I've not grown up since we met.
I think by the time we left, there was like, I want to say 4 briskets, 18 racks of ribs, and 12 chickens in the smoker going to town.
And I love the
fact... Were they
fact...
alive or dead?
It doesn't. By the time they're pulled off, it doesn't matter.
They were already defeathered, but they weren't dead yet.
You're defeathered. Now, I love the fact that you see this giant smoker that can hold lots and lots of meat, and specifically...
Bunch of floppy, fleshy cocks.
Specifically, shut up. Listen. It is specifically functional because of how big it is, and your first inclination is, I want to make a model toy version of it that won't hold anything.
It won't.
Would it be functional, though?
No. Well, if Libby made it...
Because then you could sell it to the tasty people who make those tiny food things.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, it was a mistake having her on.
If Libby made it, it would somehow be functional.
I agree with that.
But yeah, no, it's my favorite thing to do on the weekends now. Now that we've got this, we put this big tent up over the smoker.
Is it happening next weekend?
We cleaned the smoker up. We painted it. We put a bunch of hay down. We set up chairs. It looks awesome now. For a while, it was out of commission. There wasn't a lot we could do with it, but we've got it going. And my dad now is just like every weekend. He's like, I think I'm gonna put. I bought a case of ribs. Come on over. We're gonna smoke it up. And I was like, okay.
I am now having an asparagus.
I feel like Casey's giving me subliminal messages because every time he talks, he's just staring at me while he's talking about this smoker.
Food. From the very beginning, when I said we have our special guest, Big Al, all I pictured is half the people listening were like, oh, it's some guy who's going to be like, hey, my name's Big Al. It's the audio equivalent to going to drink a sweet tea and it turns out to be Coke. And you're like, oh, I mean, I'm not upset about it, but this is not what I expected.
Unless you're diabetic, then you are upset. I said diet.
You'll be fine.
Can you taste the difference in that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's for a diabetic. That's the difference between
that's
Diet
a
Coke
superpower. He can taste sugar.
Diet Coke.
I can tell you right now, like, because my mom can't tell the difference. If she's unsure and thinks they fucked up her order, she'll be like, taste this real quick. I'm like, that's regular. Get that fixed. Fast.
Jesus.
Is she talking about your pancreas?
Jesus. So look, here, let's lead off with this.
Stem cells?
Hunter.
Oh.
And, well.
Spencer doesn't want to talk a bunch because he's too busy eating all this
Yeah,
meat.
wait. I'm going to make you guys talk because I'm eating this meat and asparagus.
I'm
Do you guys
really
realize?
excited
Let
to
me ask you
unpack
this.
this.
How is it?
It's fucking phenomenal. Also,
It's
do you have any idea
amazing.
how my pee is going to smell later from the asparagus?
Oh, yeah. That's
Tell
why I
us how
put
it
more
tastes,
of it
too.
than
Everybody say,
anything else.
hey, listen.
What?
Listen.
You ever drink a bunch of coffee and then you go to pee and it smells like Sugar Smacks?
Can I slightly set this up?
I drink coffee and I pee. It smells like coffee, and I get so happy.
Oh, okay.
So, but you're gonna do the intro. You should, but I just want to preface it real quick. Monday afternoon, I got a text from Spencer, and he said, "Who is your third grade teacher?" I was like, "Why?"
At this point, Hunter imagines I'm on some like weird date or something. You know, like I'm in the dark parts of the internet.
Some
It's just-
scrawny little asshole. That's your friend, Spencer.
Yeah, so-
it's not going to work out.
So anyway, yeah, Hunter and Alaiah have a mysterious. Their paths cross way back in the past. Do you guys talk about that?
Alaiah has to because I don't remember
okay.
it mostly. If you remember,
Well, I woke up last Monday and I was like, I don't know. Suddenly my brain was like, Hunter from third grade, the Hunter with diabetes is literally what my brain said. And I was like,
Because
that
we know a
makes sense.
couple, and we need to differentiate. So you're
the sick one,
Yeah, yeah.
Literally,
the
I
one
was
with the short shelf life.
And all I could think of was 8-year-old Hunter with a mustache wearing the exact same clothes that he wears now.
Did you have that mustache when you were 8?
Fucking way.
Don't you lie to me, dude, because I can see you look like you're 8 now.
I grew. That's why it was so easy for. I never learned how to dress like an adult.
You just fucking hung out. You just hung out in third grade for like 12 years. Tell everybody what you guys discovered. You discovered that you did go to school together, but Hunter has no recollection of it at all.
Yeah, Hunter
Yeah.
doesn't remember me, which
So-
is really funny because my nose was humongous. I'm pretty sure it reached across the entire schoolroom.
So we're going to guess that you grew into it. 'Cause
Yeah,
it looks fine
literally,
now.
like, my mom has a picture of me when I was 12 years old on Facebook, and my nose is the only thing on my face that you can see.
You look like a
Everybody that
fucking
sees the picture
bonobo.
goes, Alaiah, why was your nose so big? And I'm like, I have no idea.
Let me ask my genetics real quick. So yeah, we discovered that we did indeed have the same third grade teacher, which means class. So I started
At the
to-
same time.
Yeah,
You went to school literally.
Sorry,
together.
we were in the same class. Yeah, and because it was so long ago, I thought that I was in the clear because I didn't remember knowing Alaiah. So I was like, I mean, that's really cool, but I don't remember her. And then Alaiah commandeered Spencer's phone and was like, this is what I remember from it. And she sat at the same fucking table as I did for the whole year.
And tattled on you, apparently.
Maybe. We're not sure
I don't
about that
think
yet.
so. I mean, maybe. I was
Let's
always
dive
a
into
prude as
that a
child.
little bit.
Well, I can say that ever since I got there, so I moved to Tennessee in third grade in the beginning of September, right after 9/11, actually. My parents were on the plane 2 days before 9/11 happened, and they thought they were going to die too, flying back to North Dakota.
Adam Wise got in trouble on 9/11 because we were 8 years old prefacing this, so no one knew. But when that happened, we walked by the TV and saw it, and he goes, "Oh, cool!" And Miss Farmer, rest in peace, Adam Wise, God. But Miss Farmer pulled him aside, and she laid into him like so bad.
I remember our teacher, my reading teacher, turned the TV off and was like, "You guys don't need to be watching this."
Yeah.
And our science teacher walked in and just to like say something to her and realize the TV was off. And was like, "Why is the TV off?" She's like, "Oh, I don't want the kids to see that." She goes, "You are not going to block them from this. Like, even as tragic and horrible as it is, this
It's
is a piece of
happening, yeah.
history."
I actually remember,
this is a piece of history, and they need to watch it.
Yeah, I remember my teacher, that when I was up in North Dakota, my teacher didn't know what was going on. She was just teaching the class. And then somebody wheeled in that giant TV, which, by the way, children now think are really cool looking TVs.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck, I remember.
One of my college professors had a little girl that saw one of those, and she goes, "Mom, can we get a TV like that?"
It has wheels.
Yeah, anyway, so like they pushed this in, and my teacher was like, "What the fuck?" And they were like,
Now, if a TV's any bigger than a fucking credit card, everybody's mad. They're complaining about it.
Anyway, yeah, so they wheeled it in, and we were watching that whole thing. We spent the whole day watching the tragedy. But anyway, okay, away from the
Past
sad
that,
stuff.
yeah, sorry.
Apparently, they grew up together watching 9/11.
That's right.
And
Well, I
the
wasn't
end.
here. Anyway, I moved here in the middle of September, and immediately Miss Weldon hated me because I didn't know how to do. We start school a month after you guys up north. We start after Labor Day, and
So why does everybody up north act so fucking superior?
because they're angry. It's cold up there.
Oh.
Why? They won the war.
I honestly have no idea. I've been down here too long now. Anyway, so
she didn't like you.
She didn't just hate Alaiah, though. So, I mean,
I felt like
her.
I was the only person she hated because I moved down there and I didn't know as much as you guys. We had just started cursive writing. And so the second day I was there, actually the first day I was there, I did not know. I went through that lunch line and I saw some of the kids were getting popsicles and I was like, holy shit, you guys get popsicles for lunch? This is awesome. Which the funny thing is sometimes in Lewis and Clark Elementary, we would get Happy Meal toys with our lunch. And
That
I thought
sounds so much
popsicles were cooler. I know, but I thought popsicles were cooler. So I go through this line and I pick up a popsicle and Miss Walden is like, she like grabbed my wrist and goes, excuse me, can you pay for that? And I was like, I don't have money, I'm 8. And she was like, fine, I'll pay for you. I didn't really eat it. I think she got really mad at me after that. So anyway, but like after that, she's like, she would criticize all of my clothes. She failed every one of my cursive tests because I couldn't write a capital K or a capital M in cursive.
Really?
Is it because you couldn't see because of your nose back then?
Probably. Yeah.
I want to point something out that I learned how to write in cursive in the 3rd grade. In the 4th, 5th, 6th grade, they demanded everything be in cursive.
Yep.
Now I'm 30 years old and I can't. If I don't write in cursive, I look like I'm writing like a fucking 10-year-old. It's all scratchy and weird.
They don't teach cursive anymore.
Yeah, they stopped teaching cursive in school.
Yeah, well, that's all I know now. And so now I like write something. Someone's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's cursive." And they're like, "I don't read that. Write it in normal print." And I was like, "You're not gonna like it. I have bad handwriting."
Dude, this may be kind of a simple argument, but if people don't ever learn how to write in cursive, how are they going to sign their name?
Well, see, I don't actually use
People
cursive
learn
when I
how
sign my
to
name.
sign.
Do you not?
I do an H.
Hunter, give me a pen,
scribble,
'cause I know you
T.
have one.
Cursive life hack for me was, as an adult, even though they teach you how to do it, is just like 1 or 2 identifiable letters and squiggles in between. So that's
Oh, yeah. That's like the Paul Stanley signature.
Yeah.
There's a big P and then just like, and there's a big S and just,
But that's how I write, like when I'm in a hurry too. So like I have lyric books that I can't read anymore.
And also,
Thank-
I'd like to
thank
point
God,
out.
I've heard some of your lyrics.
Also, I'd like to point out, talking about Al and your teacher. How can a teacher hate
our teacher?
Whatever. How can a teacher just hate a child?
Yeah, our teacher.
I had a teacher in the 4th grade who despised me, and I didn't know why.
Yeah. Do you guys, this is a good time to talk about those teachers that you remember that were super discouraging to you.
It was probably my mom, honestly. My mom is like very aggressive. She would come into my classrooms and tell my teachers all these things. And the other thing that I really hated was I got mono when I was in 3rd grade in October. And I was home for 3 weeks.
Hell yeah.
And Miss Weldon put all of my homework and all of the work that you guys had done for 3 weeks in my desk. And then when I came back, she goes, it was like this thick. And she goes, take it home, look it over, and then throw it away.
She held up her fingers, indicating a large thickness.
It was like an inch thick. It's like 100 pages of paper in my mind. It was probably
look it
like
over and throw
10.
it away is what she said.
Yeah, she goes, look it over and then throw it away. Well, I went to my father's house that weekend, and my father is a teacher. And so he goes, you're going to stay home all weekend and work on all of these pages of paper that you haven't done for 3 weeks. And I was furious.
You were out.
Why not?
You were out of school for 3 weeks with mono.
Yeah. And then
Fuck. Are you sure you didn't have stereo?
Oh my
you're
God,
going to keep
Spencer.
making that joke, and it's
love
going
it.
to keep not being funny.
It's so funny.
Anyway, so my father made me do all this homework. My first week of being a normal kid where I could like run around and do stuff, he made me sit at home at the dinner table and do homework for 3 days. And then I came back and I was so happy. I was like, man, I got all this done. And I handed it to Miss Weldon, literally looked me dead in the eyes, and then threw it all in the trash.
Fuck.
She goes, I told you to throw it away.
Dang.
That does sound like Miss Weldon. I remember that.
How can someone be so cruel to a child?
Dude, I remember in 6th grade, we had just started to get like the kind of homework where you had to sort of keep it. You had multiple classes with homework in each one.
Yeah.
I remember. I mean, we'd had homework before that, but nothing big. Like go home and color this picture, or something stupid, you know. And I remember in 6th grade, also at Cedar Bluff. Are you guys talking about Cedar Bluff
Yeah.
school?
Yeah.
This is me at Cedar Bluff Middle, and there's kind of a funny story that goes along with it. Anybody that listens to this that went to school back then will remember.
Is it a
this.
Waddle and Daub shack back then?
I don't know your terminology. I just hear diabetes coming through the microphone. So fucking.
It'll smell real sweet though.
The teacher's name was Mrs. Head. I'm gonna save some.
What does she teach?
Got English. She taught
Dog head.
Listen. Her name is Mrs.
Oh,
Head.
that's inappropriate because of the age range. I'm sorry.
Mrs. Head. And we had gotten homework. She was very, strict and, as I remember, pretty bitchy. Like looking back on it, maybe she wasn't that terrible, but I was horrified of her, and I thought she was very, very very scary. And she had signed homework, and I had come up with this system of completing my homework, folding it up, putting it in my book on the chapter, so it was complete, and mark the chapter. So the next day you could open the book, produce the homework, and you'd be right on the next chapter. So I had this whole system of organization, and I'd gotten it all together, got the homework done early, double checked it, everything. And I was so proud, and I went in there, and she was coming around collecting the homework. And I remember she got around to me, and she goes, "Do you have your homework?" And I went, "Yes, I do, Mrs. Head." And I flipped the book open so she could see that I was ready to go to the next chapter, produced the homework that was perfectly evenly folded, handed it to her. And she looked at me and shook her head. This is in front of the whole class. She goes, "Do you keep your homework in your books?" And I went, "Well, yeah, it keeps me, yeah, I use it to keep my place." And she goes, and she condescendingly shook her head and just went,
What a cunt.
She totally wrote off.
God, Mom listens to this.
She
I'm so
shit.
See you next Tuesday.
She shit up the backside of my entire effort. And I was just like, okie doke. There's no place in this bitch for God.
I've had.
Wait, what? There's an epilogue. One sec. She was married. And do you want to know what her husband's name was?
Richard.
Dickhead. Yes.
That's
I was able
beautiful.
to sort of reconcile my feelings about her down the road by understanding that that's her family.
So,
Dickhead and real dickhead.
She's married to a
Zing.
dick.
Yeah.
fourth grade, I had a teacher, Miss Perry, who hated me and would put me literally, all the rest of the class would be on one side and I'd be by myself on another side of class. And
we
she also
always had a
faced
kid
me,
like that.
she faced me to the corner away from where she was teaching. So I'd have to turn around at my desk to watch her teach.
Jerk.
I had a parent come in one time. I'm not going to say which one of my parents, but I had a parent show up and they saw that I was sitting by myself and they're like, "You're going to move him back with the rest of the class." And she was like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, I just gave it away. Oh, well.
Hey, Dad.
But it was just like, it was so funny because that day he was like, "All right, we're leaving." And at 10:30, he took me out of class. I was like, "Yay, I get to leave school early." He's like, "Yeah, he's like, I'm trying to make a statement here. Just let's go." And he stopped by the principal's office and talked to the principal. I got moved back with the rest of the class. And then that day I went to the Arboretum in Oak Ridge. I went to the Science Museum. He took me downtown to the Art Museum. He was like, "You're going to learn." He's just
it's
like,
gonna be cool,
He's
though.
like, you're going to be, he's like, just, you need to learn how to be social with people and not be outcast.
That's a
in
massive
classroom.
argument for homeschooling right there, for proper homeschooling.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, in fact, a past guest of ours, Jordan Shipley, who is friends with Alaiah too. Jordan had at some point said that she said her friend group was just a bunch of tweaky homeschoolers.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get that, but also some of the smartest people I know were homeschooled. And Ron Paul, who's sort of like my political hero, other than Tulsi Gabbard, but he even endorsed her recently. Like he has a whole homeschool curriculum.
Yeah.
That you can download for free, and if you decide you're going to homeschool your kids, you can put them through this. And they learn all the stuff. They learn English, but they also learn civics and economics and all this kind of stuff. Like
My
how to
wife
start
was
a small.
homeschooled, and she graduated her 4-year college a semester early. So
Yeah, so there's something. And anyway, that's the thing.
I then had a teacher in the 9th grade, Mrs. DeVille, who it was a social science class. I don't know. She taught us how to write checks and how bank accounts worked and things like that. It was like a weird money class to teach you how to be like an adult after high school. She would throw
Turns out, actually, the most important class they taught in that school.
yeah.
But
and
everybody's like,
she
that's
threw
weird.
my homework away. I failed that class. Like I would turn my homework in and be like, I would even show my mom, be like, "Mom, I did the homework." And I'd turn it in, and then I would a day later, she'd be like, "Yeah, I didn't get it, so you got a 0." And I was like, "I gave it to you," and she's like, "No, you didn't."
Oh my god.
No.
Again, a good preparation for the real world. Remember when you turn things into your corporate office, hint, hint, and they lose it 6 times? Hint.
Oh
Sorry.
my god.
And then
Horror stories from them.
And then my senior year, my first semester of senior year, I had an art teacher who really did not like me. And because I was taking an art class with
That's what
freshmen
they
and
do.
sophomores. And it was just supposed to be an easy A. And she was like, "I'm not going to make this easy for you." And so I'm not very artistic, but I drew and did all the projects for the first half of the semester. And then my mom had a counselor's meeting with all the teachers, and our teacher brought all the artwork, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is great. Like, I can't even draw like this." And the principal and the guidance counselor were like, "This is fantastic." And she was like, "Are you kidding me? This is garbage. This is absolute garbage." In front of my mom, my other teachers, and the principal and guidance counselor. My mom said the principal and the guidance counselor just kind of hid their face in their hands, and they're just completely mortified. And the only reason I knew that actually happened is because I went to my science class that year, and my like I walked in and she goes, "You have that art class?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I'm so sorry." She's like, she seems like an awful person to have to be around.
That's good.
I remember one time, one of those horrifying things. I was in grade school, probably at Cedar Bluff or whatever, you know, and it's for some reason I had raised my hand, asked if I could go to the bathroom. The teacher said, "No, you have to wait till class. Class is over in a few minutes." And I, oh, okay. And it wasn't a big deal. I just waited, and then when the class was over, I went to the bathroom. No big deal. But I somehow was talking about that at home later that night, and my dad overheard it. And he hit the fucking ceiling. He goes, "If they ever tell you can't go to the bathroom," he goes, "you stand up right there in class, pull your pants down, and piss in the floor, and I'll handle it from there." And I was thinking, as nice as that is to feel like somebody's got your back that much, can you imagine the nightmare that would unfold for a kid if they did that in school? Yeah. No matter how protective the parents were. Or like you would always be the guy that pissed in class.
Now, let me ask you this, because this is
I'm like, yeah, Dad, that's exactly what I need. How about I just fucking hold it for another 5 minutes and I don't go to, get this reputation?
In school, all throughout my school, my mom, if I ever got in trouble, my mom would take the teacher's side. My dad would take my side. Is that a normal thing? Because I always hear stories and they're like, yeah, my dad didn't like my teachers and my mom was,
My parents were totally the opposite. My mom, if I said anything to my mom about any teacher not doing as she wanted it, she would make herself known. When I was in high school, we went to a public school and they tried to make this big statement about not having an in crowd or an out crowd and trying to make the school dress code affordable. But you had to have solid colored collared shirts with no logo on them. Your shirts had to be tucked in. You had to have a belt. You had to have pants on that couldn't have more than 5 pockets, no less than 2 pockets, no holes in them. You couldn't have your pants past your ankle. You had to have closed-toed shoes. Or no, you had to have shoes with backs on them. You couldn't have headbands. You couldn't have jewelry. Your backpack either had to be mesh or clear. Like all this stuff, all this crazy stuff. And my mom got really mad about it and like yelled at the school board for 2 years, and they finally dropped the mesh thing and some of the clothing thing. But also one of my Spanish teacher, I had to take 2.5 years of Spanish because I asked my mom one day if I could have $10 to buy a basketball sticker because my Spanish teacher was a basketball coach, and he said that you could get a letter grade up if you bought one of the basketball.
Oh, you can't do that.
And I was like, I was failing this class because they made this dick move and put all the summer school kids with all the smart kids. Mm-hmm. They thought that it would make the summer school kids smarter. But really what happened was my Spanish teacher was like, if everybody turns their homework in, you get a grade. If one person doesn't turn their homework in, nobody gets the grade. And of course, none of the summer school kids wanted to do their homework, so nobody would ever get a grade.
That sounds like someone just resting on a salary.
Oh my God, it was the worst.
That's exactly what that is.
Mm-hmm.
I was also dating his son at the time, so it made it worse.
That was your first problem.
It made it worse.
Now you. I take it back, salary worker.
Also,
I might up for a hand job.
Yeah.
He didn't know. Anyway, I asked my mom for $10, and she was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I want an A in this class, not a D, please." And so
yeah, you were getting. Never mind.
Oh God.
Never mind.
I'd be careful.
Never mind.
Carefully.
She's sitting close to me. I could get struck.
Yeah, I could kick you. Right now.
So
anyway, so my mom went to the principal and told them what he was doing, and so I had to get taken out of the class.
Did he tell her what you were doing? Sorry.
Since you remember third grade better, I wanted ask do you remember
fuck, who else was she dating? The principal? What's going on over there?
Jesus Christ, Spencer.
Sorry.
Do you remember the problem that I had where I would turn work in like at the end of the day instead of when it was supposed to be due?
Yeah.
And even though it was all done, so Miss Farmer's husband knew I was into comics, so he came up with this thing where I would get a comic book every 3 days of completed work on time. Mm-hmm. The biggest issue I took with Miss Weldon until, looking back on it as an older person and going, she was kind of just horrible in general, was that she honored that at first because that was the agreement. And I'm super anal about not honoring agreements, I guess, anyways. But at a certain point, she'd start to, I'd turn it in and be like, okay, I get to pick one today. And she'd be like, no, we're going to see if you can go, like that whole, like you're going to grow a little bit. See if you can do the whole week or whatever. And I would just go home in a stew, like, you fucking bitch. Like, we agreed.
Your mom listens to this podcast.
I know, but mom knows. If I talk about Miss Graves, mom will actually jump on YouTube.
Oh my God, did you have Miss Graves too?
Did you?
Yes.
Holy shit. Jesus Christ.
She was my favorite.
We had two fucking classes together.
Fucking you guys went trick or treating together. Oh fucking shit.
Did we?
I also wanted to ask what high school you went to because I feel like you might know some of my friends.
I went to Bearden.
Oh my god, do you know Emily Clemmer?
Shout out Emily, whoever the fuck you are from the past.
We need to talk about Miss Graves real quick.
Yes.
She was your favorite, right?
Oh my god, I loved her.
Okay, so as
Smart
as
people
an
get
adult,
Smarties.
I don't hate her anymore, but I hated her at the time. For
twist.
two,
You didn't get any Smarties, apparently.
she was smart enough not to give them to me.
Yeah, and you're not getting one today either, Hunter.
Shut up, Spencer. Just like third grade, where there's the whole which we glossed over, but someone tattled on me for reading a comic book during a spelling test thing. There's a couple things about Miss Graves that I remember. The Brown Bag Friday thing that would happen.
I don't know if I remember that.
It was like once a quarter or something. Like they had this thing where you just fuck off all day.
Oh.
And my
Sounds
thing
like a
was,
great class.
I wanted to bring my comic books because I was like, that's what I'm going to do. Me and Michael Wolf. I don't know if you remember him.
Oh,
like,
I was going to talk about him. He was the
What a
weirdest
douche.
kid in our class. No, he liked to act like he was Spider-Man, so he'd run around the classroom acting like Spider-Man.
So you can imagine he and I were best buddies in that class.
This is incredible. This just got so good.
But what
She
I
was like,
remember
let me
is
tell you all the dumb stuff this one kid did. And Hunter was like, he's my kind of guy.
she looked. I used to go to his house all the time. We'd like play Punisher and Predator and stuff like that.
Oh, I bet you
that
did.
makes
Could you say that again?
Is that,
Can you tell us about how you...
now, when you
Why
played,
is everything sex with you, Spencer?
I just
when
said...
you play-
I was 9.
Casey has a question. Casey has a fucking question.
when you played Predator, was it like going out and trying to find the creepy white van that's giving away free candy, or was it like the movie Predator?
And then was it when you got inside the van is when the game Punisher started?
No, it was the creepy white van, but we were pretending to be the Predator and trying to see if we could hide from him.
And it was punished.
Like in the movie. No, but so with the comic book thing, I wanted to bring those, and she looked at my comics and was like, Batman and Spider-Man, violent, bad for your brain, you can't have them. And I was like, okay, what?
That makes sense because she
what
was
if
like
I-
90 years old.
Yeah, what if I bring like my Scooby-Doo and Archie and all that?
Experience.
Archie, and she goes, that's fine. We get to the last brown bag or whatever of the year, and I was like, can I please bring Batman or something? And she's like, we'll talk about it later in the week, but probably you've been real good and like not combative about this. So we get to the day before, and I'm like, so is it cool? And she's like, no, fuck that. And I was like, you bitch. So 1. 2, she used to make me check my blood sugar way too much, and I get that's coming from a good place, but my mom could talk to this better, but she apparently contacted her and was like, hey, he's not a pincushion. Stop stabbing him. And the other thing that stood out to me with Miss Graves.
That's too easy, Spence. That's too easy.
So I'm sorry. I was gonna be, was this still you and your friend, or is this a teacher? Sorry. Go on. Go on. All I'm getting at is she tried to stop you from being distracted and save your life. I don't see what the problem is.
Right.
She sounds
No,
like
but
she sounds like an angel to me.
Up until the point where my nose itched and I scratched it, and then in front of the entire class, I don't know if you remember this at all, she told me not to pick my nose. Like,
I
just
remember
shouted
that.
it across the room, and I was like, I didn't pick my nose. And she goes, you need to get a tissue and clean that up, and then you're going to go wash your hands just in front of everybody. And I
Holy
was fucking
shit.
mortified.
That's mortifying for a kid. Yeah.
My nose itched. I did not put my finger up my nostril.
And even if you did, hey,
Even if I did, fuck off. But I didn't. Like,
in
it's
adulthood,
just like the
I'll
spelling
pick my
thing.
nose wherever the fuck I want to.
Well, right.
In front of, I don't give a fuck.
But that's the stuff I remember from like early school is the teachers like latching onto me for like weird shit and then misinterpreting what's happening.
We had a teacher at one point in Cedar Bluff. Her name was Mrs. Wolf. She was very old like that too. She was a sweet lady, but like me and some of my hooligan friends, like we had a thing going. We could get her to bust a coffee cup on the blackboard once a week. And
That's
if
horrible.
Friday was rolled around and she hadn't busted
That would
one,
be entertaining, actually.
somebody would, like, one guy would go and he would sit up on top of the lockers, like in the classroom, and she would go, Brian. It was fucking Brian Holder. She would go, Brian, get down. It's time to start class. And he'd go, hey, Miss Wolf, I'm going to have class from up here. And she'd go, Brian, you get down right now. And she couldn't get him. He was like way up, you know, and she would go, God damn it, Brian. And he would go, come on, Miss Wolf, I have a better view of the chalkboard from up here. And you're so lovely. There you go. She'd have a coffee cup. Smash! It would go all over the blackboard. He would get down. We'd be like, check off another week.
So since we've discovered that we had 2
You're
classes
terrible
together, actually,
people.
Well, I had
was-
some shitty friends, but then afterwards I would stay and help her clean up. I was like, Miss Wolf, I'm really sorry. She goes, Spencer, you're the only one that can get through to these boys. You have to get through to these boys. And I'd go,
you were her.
and I would go,
You'd go,
knight in
absolutely.
shining
And then you'd
armor.
go up to
No.
your friends and be like, all right, next week, what are we going to do to make her smash?
I would
You're
go,
the mastermind.
listen, dude, I would go,
You're
Miss Wolf,
evil.
I'll try. Okay. But I mean, we're all young here. And she'd be like, I know. And I'd go out and be like, okay, she's cool. Let's get her another coffee cup.
Leia, who was your 5th grade teacher?
Mr. Pratt.
You fucking had Mr. Pratt for...
I did.
God.
Damn it, listen.
I can't... At some point, this
Sorry,
is going to have to be
Mr.
like...
Pratt is amazing.
He was my favorite. So listen.
He was the coolest fucking teacher.
Mr. Pratt was super gay.
Look at the lines on that.
So...
That's why I leaned back from the microphone.
All right, so let's
did
hear
you have
about
Miss
Mr.
Bird?
Pratt, and then let's get off of the school. Like
I'm sorry, it's just...
I want to go really quick before we go to Mr. Pratt. I want to go back to Miss Weldon because there is something that I do understand. As much of a bitch as she was, she had the worst class ever. Adam Wise every single week would just do something stupid.
He fucking stapled his
yeah.
his eyebrow
I was
or
standing
whatever.
up at the desk when he did that. No,
Wait,
he stapled
what?
his thumb. He was
his
playing
thumb,
with her
that's right,
stapler
yeah.
one day, and I was waiting to ask her a question about a paper.
he fucked himself up.
And he was like playing with it, and she'd go, Adam, put that down. You're going to staple yourself. He goes, no, I'm not. Click right through his thumb. Like you could see the staple on the other side.
I remember
And he
that,
goes,
yeah.
Miss Weldon. And she goes, oh, God, let me get Miss Farmer. I'm going to take you to the nurse. And I swear to God, in her head, she was just going, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Like to every person in the classroom. We were like the worst kids.
I guess we were probably.
That little girl, Jessie, she'd make all this gross concoction with her lunch every day. She'd mix strawberry milk
She's
and
a teacher
ketchup with
now.
her. Jessie is?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's what?
She's a teacher. I remember Jessie. I owe her a Spider-Man drawing still.
Oh, she
third
was
grade.
the sweet. And then Stacy Padilla, who was one of my best friends, who rode the bus every day. She was really dramatic. One day she had a little, like the size of a freckle. She had a little spot of blood on her arm, and she was like, Miss Weldon, I'm gushing blood. Like,
Stacy was cool until
She's like, no, dear, you're not that old yet. No, I can't. I'm having a hard time being serious.
Yeah, Stacy was cool. I remember her.
But anyway,
You bastard.
I
I'm
feel
so
like
sorry.
That
Miss
one
Weldon
snuck up
had,
on me.
I feel like Miss Weldon had the hardest group of kids because we were all obnoxious.
Do you feel like you guys were bad kids?
I mean, we got away with a lot more than we probably should have. I feel like.
You're two of the more mild-mannered people I have ever fucking met.
Well, I mean,
it's
you gotta
stunning for me to think that you were like.
Think about in quotes what bad is, though. Again,
It's because in high school they were stoners.
I
They
wanted
just
to
smoked
read
it all
comic
away.
books, and that made me trash to her.
Oh,
She
didn't-
did have 2 diabetics. There was Nora.
Yeah,
so,
I
we had
like
2
Nora,
sick
too.
kids.
Yeah.
I can only imagine being a teacher and having a diabetic as a student.
How about 2 of them?
God, to be a
They
handful
always
in
had to go in the
class.
library. She would stand in front of the library sometimes because she didn't want anybody to look at them. She made it was like
It was really weird, yeah.
For a while, I was like, is diabetes like a disease you can catch by staring at somebody? Like I was really confused as an 8-year-old. Other than my grandpa, I'd never met anybody who had diabetes. And like she'd make you guys go sit in that library, that little corner, and nobody was allowed to look at them. Like
Oh,
it
that's-
was embarrassing to see them
That's
just
fucking-
check their blood sugar.
that's
was
so
a thing all
exclusionary. You
throughout.
know, like
Miss Graves, do you remember that fucking like office in between all the rooms in the suite? I had to go in there to do it. Like I was always cordoned off from everybody.
I feel like in high school I would have gotten really weird and stupid with it. Like anytime I was doing my insulin and someone saw me, I would just be like slap my arm, have like a balloon tied around it.
I remember I did in high school. They had an area in the head office, and this is back when I was like painted fingernails and like those Sharpie tats all over my arm. It had a full sleeve I gave myself, and I came
remember
out
Hunter
of the
used
bathroom.
to come from Bearden 2 books a million, and he would have shit all over his hands.
Yeah.
He would draw on his fingernails.
Yeah. So I looked like that, and I had my hood up when I came out of the bathroom where they made us do the medicine. And the principal, I guess, didn't know it was me, and he was on the other end of the hallway. I was walking
he's like, holy
down,
shit,
and he
My
was
Chemical
like-
Romance.
He thought I was there to shoot the school or something. He was like, hey, come here. What are you doing in here? And I was like, I'm taking medicine. It's fine. He's, do you go to school here? I was like, yes, I go.
Yes, I'm the
aren't-
diabetic.
These are not real.
You're like, no, I came into their high school to fucking shoot up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember it in high school. My freshman year in high school, I was in a really terrible car wreck, and I missed like the whole second half of the semester or whatever. So I went back as a sophomore. I had like a homebound teacher for while I was healing and all this shit, and I went back my sophomore year, and I was on so much fucking medicine, and I had a cane, and all this stuff,
dude.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
That's cool now.
Awesome.
Oh, I didn't give a fuck.
Right.
I didn't give a fuck. I was already very independent by then.
Were you
so-
walking around and be like, hey, cut the slack, Jack?
No, but I swung it at a guy one time.
I feel
I tried to take
you
a guy.
should have just like dressed as a pimp the whole night.
It was, I swung it at one of the
Top jive.
Yeah, dude. I tried to hit one of the football players with it one time. He ducked.
In the butt or the head?
Dude, I was an inch from his cheekbone. I was going to put him in the hospital. No shit. Because he picked on like this tiny girl who was dating a friend of mine. He had pushed her down. This guy was like fucking 300 pounds on the football team. You know, and I wasn't like big, but I wasn't a little guy either.
Where else would he
And
be?
I wasn't
Yeah.
afraid of this dick face. And like I saw her and she was crying, and my friend who I played in a band with, or was about to play in a band with, whatever, was over there, and I was like, dude, what happened to your girlfriend? And he was like, fucking, I think the guy's name was, I'm not gonna say the guy's name because I think he may have passed away, but anyway, so and so did it. And I was like, that motherfucker. I saw him upstairs in the locker bay like a little bit after that, and I had that cane. And I couldn't go fast because my fucking leg was all being reconstructed and I was on this cane, but I got pretty close to him and I was like, I'm fucking going to kill you. And he shut his locker and started to go the other way, and I swung and he ducked and then he ran off. And I was like, really? You can't even fight a dude on a cane? Come on. But anyway, the teachers, I was on all this crazy medicine, like so much fucking medicine, so much pain medicine and shit. They'd give me a lot. I was allowed to use the elevators and stuff to go up and down.
That must have been fun.
Like it kind of, everybody was like, what the fuck are you doing? And then they would try to get on the elevator with me and they would all get mad. I was like, man, don't. I really was in a car wreck. Anyway, whatever. But like, I remember some of the teachers, sometimes I would nod off in class. And I remember one of the driver ed teachers who was this fucking swaggering asshole. He's one of the football coaches. You know what I mean? Like they give that class to somebody that barely has any teaching skills at all. So they give it to the dick face coach. And I, you know, again, his version of teaching a class is to sit there and go, read chapter 23, and he would just read the fucking newspaper. So I'd go, okay, read chapter 23. It was basically how to use a fucking blinker.
Yeah.
And then after that, we're sitting there, there's 30 minutes of class left to go. And I was like, okay. So I pulled my homework out from some other classes, did it. I was sitting there. I was like, fuck, man, there's nothing to do. I started to get tired. And I was on all kinds of like fucking Tylox and like Lortab, like serious pain medicine. It makes you super tired. Like I wouldn't have been allowed to operate a car.
Yeah.
So at one point, I nodded off and I wake up and the guy's like slammed his hand down on the desk. And I said, sorry. Didn't mean to fall asleep. And he was like, you need to stay awake. And I was like, well, look, if you'll check at the office, all my medical records are on file with the vice president or vice principal or whatever. And it can show you that I'm on a lot of stuff and blah, blah, blah. So I apologize. And he was like, he looked like he didn't understand that statement. And he walked off. So I sat there, 25 minutes of class left to go still. I nodded off again. Fucking guy comes back over again. This time he goes, stand up. This is in front of all my friends and shit, you know? And I was like, listen, man, I tell you, I'm all this medicine. I'm sorry. And he goes, listen, I don't give a damn what you're on. And he pointed at me like that. And I knew right then. I was just like, oh, you're not getting away with that. And I fucking let the guy have it. I got up in his face.
We would have been best friends in school, Spencer.
Oh, and I was very fair with people like that, but I didn't take any shit from those people like that. Like there was a point in my life where I was like, I'm not going to get bullied by anybody. I don't care who, the cops, authority figures.
Right.
Maybe not the smartest decision for a teenager, but and I left.
It can cause problems.
I walked right out of class, walked straight to the principal's office, and I was like, pull my fucking records out. Now here's what just happened with dick face over in driver's ed.
All throughout most of middle school and all of high school, I think like in 7th grade, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And so from then on till the end of high school, it was just like constant doctor's appointments, having to be put on new medications and things like that. But talking about football players real quick before I go back to this medication talk.
Yeah.
That was like my first thing I was told to do as a freshman or sophomore is go make friends with the senior football team. And I did. And I like would just annoy them until I was buddy with them. And then other freshmen or sophomore would try to bully me and then they would step in and pick on them. Only problem was no one warned me that once they graduate and leave and I'm a junior and a senior, all those people that got beat up because they were picking on me.
Back for vengeance.
It's fucking revenge now, Casey.
Hopefully, good thing by junior year, I learned how to be a smartass and get myself in even more trouble by talking my way into it. But
yep.
Now
so
that
I got bullied quite a bit.
Let me ask you this. Let's talk about this since we're talking. This is going to obviously be like a school days episode.
Teacher's pet.
What was your?
Oh, I was totally a teacher's pet.
You were a teacher's pet.
Miss Weldon hated you.
No, all my other teachers.
Sorry,
If I can talk, I was I wanted to please people so heavily, especially my authority figures, and so I would do everything I could to be a good student, like go the extra mile if I could. But I was also really lazy. I hated doing all my schoolwork, so I would wait till the very last second to do it.
How do you reconcile those two things? You're like, oh, I want to do so much shit, but I don't want to do any shit.
It's my life right now.
My mom, I'd be like, Mom, I have a school project due tomorrow. And she'd be like, what's it on? I'm like, the solar system.
And
I
she
have
would
to
do
make
it
a
for
whole.
you?
She'd be like, fuck. All right,
My mom did
let's
my
get the
homework
model
for
and
me.
clay out. She would do half of my work, but she'd make me like if I had a book report due, I'd be like, Mom, what's the little prairie on? And she's like, why do you ask? I'm like, because I'm supposed to have read the book already, and I didn't.
And it's due tomorrow.
Yeah, so like she would make me do all the stuff for it. Also, did you ever read the Green? What is it called? The Green
Mile?
Thumb.
Yeah.
No, the
Oh,
Green
sorry.
Thumb. It was a book about these people that
I feel like I did.
it was in third grade. I did a book report on it, and I got a D because my mom drew a duck with a gun, which is in the book. The book that I was reading, that she told me to read, had a duck with a gun. The duck had a shotgun, and I got in trouble because it was a main statement in the story, and I made a book report about it, and she was like, you can't have guns in school.
Well, for those of
Now-
you listening, like Alaiah and I were coming up right after Columbine happened too, so that was
Oh,
a big
yeah, I
hot
guess
button
that's
thing
it.
for people.
Do you remember Edgar Allan Poe's The Pit and the Pendulum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
So I read most of that book, and I did a book report on it. And at the end of the book report, I said that the guy died, and the teacher immediately knew I didn't read the book.
Dude, my first ever bad grade in school. I was actually a pretty good student. I know I just told that super rebellious story, but like I was a pretty good kid through most of high school. I was in pretty good classes and stuff. And I tried really hard to do everything right. But my first ever really bad grade was I was in AP English in high school, and they assigned us to read Great Expectations by Charles Dickens.
No one can
I've
read.
heard that's the worst.
I'm here to tell you
He's a
something.
horrible writer.
If Travis
I'm sorry.
Stevens, shout out Travis Stevens, if you're listening to this right now, you know how I feel because you've actually bought me this book multiple times down through the years as a joke. Great Expectations is the worst. I'm going to go on record right now. Great Expectations is the worst piece of shit ever written by a person.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worse than Night of the Assholes. Google that. There's a bunch of funny books like that. I mean, dude, I tried like hell to read it. It was horrible, horrible. Every paragraph made me feel like I had eye cancer. You know,
Yeah.
fucking. I went and got the Cliff Notes. I was like, maybe I can just read this enough to get through the class. No, the Cliff Notes are just as boring.
That's how I felt about Walden.
Dude,
I hated that book
I could
so
not
much.
fucking stand.
My English
Great
teachers loved me
Expectations.
because Great Gatsby, The Outsiders, The Crucible, all that stuff, I loved it.
I thought those were. I liked all those. Those
Yeah.
are rad.
I tell you, like having after all the comic book talk and like the problems I had with teachers, right after I graduated high school, left and right because of a place that I work. Kids come in all the time now, ready to buy Watchmen and Day Tripper by the Moon Brothers, and all this shit that is incredible, and that I had to find ways to read in my free time. And I find out that it's because they're teaching classes on it now in high school.
Yeah.
And it just makes me mad. That grinds my gears.
That grinds you. That really grinds your
That
gears.
really grinds my gears.
I do want to mention one thing I was leading up to when I was talking about my having to take medicine for ADHD.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about nodding off in class.
Yeah.
I had a math class at the end of.
And
it was
real
like-
quick, I don't want to pretend like I never went to school tired. I stayed
Oh,
up
no.
late way too many times. I wasn't the best student. I wasn't by any means a well-behaved kid. There were plenty
So
of
you were
times.
a teenager.
Well,
Yeah.
there were plenty of times I did go to school tired and probably nodded off for it. But in that particular year, I was on all kinds of crazy medicine. I didn't want to. I'm not.
Your leg was getting built again.
I don't want
That's-
to. I don't want to fucking like put myself up on a cross. You know.
But my last semester of senior year, I had to take 5 classes. I had to take an extra class because I didn't have enough credits and I had to make up for it. And so I would have to get to school an hour and a half earlier than everybody else to do a whole other class. And the last class I had that day was Algebra 2. And I fucking hate math. I'm terrible at it. I'm awful at it. It's the worst subject. And the medicine, it's called like Folklin or something. And it had like a time release. And when it started to wear off, I got really tired.
Yeah.
And so all the time in Miss Wolf's Algebra 2 class, I'd fall asleep. And one time I fell asleep and I had my homework out and I fell asleep and she woke me up by just asking me to answer the next question. And it was like greater than and less to equal to subject.
Yeah.
And so she was like, Casey, number 11. And I was like, what? She goes, number 11. I went, greater than. And the whole class laughed because I got it right. And she goes, out in the hallway right now. And I was like, okay.
How dare you get the answer right?
And so I went out the hallway and she looked me like dead in the face and was like, are you on drugs? Like, what is wrong with you? Do you have a bad life at home? And I was like, what? It's like, what the shit? And I was like, well, yes, I am on drugs. And she was like, do I need to tell the principal? I was like, no, it's prescribed drugs that I'm on. I was like, I'm basically doing speed. I was like, that's what Adderall and Focalin is. It's just speed. And she was like mortified.
She's like, can I buy some?
No, she was just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I was like, yeah, I have extra class. And we had this conversation out in the hallway, and she was like, well, you really need to stay awake in class. I was like, good luck, because it's boring.
I want to say something too. Like, I understand that. Like, sometimes I remember it being so hard to stay awake in class sometimes. And after I got out of school and got into like the business world, and I took several like courses and things on facilitation and this kind of like how to talk to a group of people, how to teach and how to train and all this. Turns out it's actually the facilitator's job to keep people awake. And if you've got a lot of people falling asleep in your class, you're probably doing something wrong.
Yeah, that reflects on you.
You need to liven it up a little bit.
Something. Do you not remember? I remember having teachers that I never would have fallen asleep in their class because they were super charismatic and,
They tried really hard. I will say, I think sometimes it's not the current teacher's fault. When I was in 6th grade, I had a teacher that I loved. I adored her class. She was my social studies teacher. And she always kept the room really cold because that's what you're supposed to do to keep people awake. And she was always really great at teaching. But the class I had before that was terrible. I can't remember if it was my science class or my English class, but that teacher was just the worst. Wouldn't create any kind of imagination or enthusiasm or interest in the class. And I'd always be on the verge of falling asleep in my social studies class. And one day I actually did fall asleep, and I woke up and she was like staring over me, and I was like, I felt like I was going to cry. I was so terrified. But I don't think it's always that current teacher's fault, because I loved her and I always wanted to please her. I always wanted to do whatever she desired.
Yeah, and the thing is, we have friends that are teachers, and they're wonderful teachers. And I've had wonderful teachers throughout my school. It's just really bad that the mean teachers and the awful teachers are the ones that stick out more.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to our absolute
treasure,
Appin who is sort of just kind of like you're the mom of like us podcast guys. She's kind of the mom of us band guys. Brandon Lee's wife, and she's at Mount Olive Elementary School. Pretty sure she was Knox County Teacher of the Year.
Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
She has to put up with Brandon alone, deserves it.
That's the thing. From putting up with our shit, it's like nothing to deal with these kids. And she actually let me come out to the school and read to the kids one time. And I read this terribly disturbing book called Parts. Yeah, it was really weird. Like, this kid thought he was coming apart because he was losing teeth and shit. And it was really dark.
Did you pick the book?
No, not well, kind of. They were like, you can pick from 2 or 3 of these books. And I was like, I like this one.
The weird one.
I like the one called Parts. And then I kept telling the kids, I kept going, this is weird, isn't it? And the kids are like, yeah, it's really weird. And I was like, look, we're going to get through this.
I would want to read Cheese Man. You guys remember that? It's like the gingerbread man, but it was a cheese person.
I read 2 books, and like it was amazing. And the kids were super engaged. It was like 3rd grade class, I think, or whatever, and it was fun to go out there and read. So occasionally they need guest readers. So if you guys are into it, I could maybe get you on the list. But shout out to App and Lee and everybody that does a good job teaching. And again, if we don't want to sound like we're shitting on teachers, obviously they're the complete unsung heroes of the developmental class of the entire world.
Yeah, we're just shitting on bad ones.
Well, just our experiences with it. I mean, like you said, Miss Weldon's nice now, right?
Yeah, I've encountered her a few times. She's really cool.
And I had
kids, like
I had phenomenal teachers throughout school, but then we had some that it's just hard to get along with. And again, maybe it's us, maybe it's them, but I think it's worth acknowledging that a teacher is such a huge part of your developmental psychology, like the approval that you get from them or the disapproval you get from them or whatever shapes you so much. So I would say, as kind of a closing statement, if you are looking to go into education, we applaud you, and do so. Be very careful. You know what I mean? Like you're literally shaping the psychology of these kids.
Yeah, don't be a dick.
Also, I'd like to point out my cousin Mitchell, shout out, is a science teacher in South Carolina, and he actually shows YouTube videos from this people I like watching called the Slow-Mo Guys.
Yeah.
And they do slow-mo weird stuff, and he'll actually stop the video with his kids and be like, this is why this is working through, like, and he'll explain it through science. And it's like a way to like engage with them, talking about like keeping their attention. And I would also he's a champ at it.
I would also like to point something out, is that entire pan of meat and vegetables is empty now.
It is.
I finished all of my dinner.
Good boy.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks.
So
yeah, we are just
eternity.
We are just about out of time. Did you have a good time on the podcast?
I did. If we're doing shout outs though, I do want to do a shout out to my mom who has like My mom's the art and music teacher out at Nyota Elementary, which is the tiniest school. It's a K through 8th school. She's got 630 students. And half of her class, they're the shittiest kids. Half of them are. They just...
Shout out to those shitty kids.
I wish...
Making her earn that money.
I wish their parents would teach them to be more respectful to good people. Because my mom is one of the hardest working people I know. So.
Your mom also sounds like a badass. I love the whole, like, shouting down the... what was it? The school board or whatever?
My mom used to be a stripper. And now she's a teacher.
There you go.
Good night. Good night. Bye. See you guys later.
There's nothing. Yeah. That's a great ender for the episode.
We could probably do one better.
No. Alaiah's mom was a stripper.
But now she'll give you an A.
And stripping?